Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Wait a minute, I just heard a familiar voice saying, suggesting that maybe I was on.
Yes.
You did a little Sokolowski there. You were breathing deeply into the microphone.
Oh, don't want to be doing that.
No. Jared Day, back by popular demand, ladies and gentlemen. Professor of history at CMU, among other things, and the aggregator of Daylee News Nuggets, which in and of themselves can keep you rather erudite on the cocktail party circuit.
Is that what you do? How you use it?
Yes.
keeps you there.
Yes, able to always converse on any topic. Right. I have to tell you, if you haven't checked out the Nuggets of late, you should check them out right now, especially for those of us Obama supporters who have gotten wobbly kneed of late, especially in regard to, of course, the rollout of the Affordable Care Act and the horror of the website debacle. So Jared Day is here to tell us, relax.
Yep.
Relax. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just spinning. You're spinning.
Well, I don't view it that way. I mean, to me, there was a time when the rollout of Obamacare was a problem worthy of the coverage it gets, and that time came and went about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Are you suggesting that the media of the United States of America don't know what a story is?
Well, I would yes, but now fortunately there's enough people out in the media who actually go a little deeper and a little broader, and that was really the focus of my posting for today, was to really look at what's really going on with this program. In terms of its impact.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. Well, you said before the show. Oh, by the way, hello. I think the show started before I was ready for it. Hello. It's Wednesday, the 20th of November.
Yes.
And Jared Day is joining us, which is going to be his habit, we hope, once a month, so we can pick your brain once a month. Mm-hmm. Okay, you were telling me before the program began that you had a personal experience.
Well, I've had 2 personal experiences.
Okay.
And I sort of view this, and it really woke me up to something that I'd already kind of suspected was so, but I wasn't really sure. And that is, for all of what you hear on the news, one of the stories that you really don't hear very much about is how it is for people who actually do go and sign up for the program.
You mean those paltry few?
Well, if you hear on my blog today, it's like those numbers in states where where things are working the way they're intended, like California or Kentucky or Connecticut, which is where I was this last week, that they are on target to meet their measures in terms of people enrolling. This was in the LA Times yesterday. And so, that's very interesting. But, for myself, what made this an interesting personal story was the fact that through the fact that I'm kind of, transitioning from CMU into this nonprofit that I was telling you about, that I had a hole in my own health insurance. And so I actually had to go in and sign up for Obamacare. Oh, wow. And it was one of these things where I had looked at the website, and Connecticut has its own website. It doesn't rely on healthcare.gov. But I went to the website and I found it. It's like, well, I had a lot of quirky aspects to my life and my other things that just made it so. It's like, I had a lot of questions. And I found out through the website that there were 2 Obamacare. The program in Connecticut, it's called Access Health Connecticut. They had 2 offices that you could just walk in, and they were open every, 7 days a week. The hours varied, but 7 days a week they were open. And this last Sunday, I actually went into the office.
So you eschewed the computer, and
yes.
You did it retro.
Yes, and that's actually one of the reasons why I'm kind of bringing it up is because, my experience there suggests to me, for those of you who are really concerned about the health of this program, and it's like, and you actually need health insurance, go to one of the information offices that you can just walk in on. And if you go to healthcare.gov, there's a place where you can actually locate. Well, these folks are called navigators. Their offices where you can go in and somebody will help you navigate you through the system. And there's a whole bunch in the city of Pittsburgh. But I was going to the one up in Connecticut. And there's several dimensions to this story. Because when I came in, the first thing I noticed about this place is, I was anticipating someplace like the Department of Motor Vehicle.
Yeah, sure.
It was nothing like the Department of Motor Vehicle.
Okay.
It was all these, you could tell somebody had really worked on this place in terms of graphic. It was poppy colors and interesting design seating and arranging, and the location was really choice. And this was in New Britain, Connecticut, up there. And it's like, wow, this is really interesting. And there was this guy at the desk. Right there, and you'd sort of expect maybe a receptionist or like somebody who's kind of, Well, this guy wasn't exactly a receptionist because he was kind of a young guy, and he was kind of in an Izod kind of sports shirt.
Yeah,
and he had his laptop on the desk there. And on the back of it was covered with all kinds of paraphernalia for the Claire McCaskill campaign.
Okay, so he was a politically active kid who was manning this office. This is an office, though, that the state of Connecticut set up, right? Wrong. I'm getting ahead of it.
I'm not so sure. My suspicion is that this office was set up by Action for America.
People who want this to work.
You got it. And having done the kind of activist kind of stuff that it's like I had actually phoned for Claire McCaskill back in 2008 or something like that, and I chatted it up with him while I was sitting there, and I was seated with him within a minute, and it was like, and he says, "Yep, I worked on the Claire McCaskill campaign up until November of last year, and they've sent me here."
They again being
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I didn't ask.
Okay.
But my suspicion is that he works for Action for America, which is Obama's campaign arm that still exists from Obama for America from last year.
Okay.
So I found that really interesting. That I was like, wow, they don't trust the people in the state to do this. They don't trust like average government bureaucrats to do this. It's like they're going to get some hardcore campaign people in here
to make it happen.
And so I sort of had like two things: to make sure that it didn't feel like the Department of Motor Vehicle, that whoever came in there, that wasn't going to be their experience, and that it wasn't going to be somebody who would be in any way tempted to mess with whatever it is that they were trying to do there.
So no saboteurs allowed, and no bureaucrats who can't think outside the box.
Yes. So, and I was in and out of there in an hour. Having had a lengthy interview with somebody there, and it's like, if you go through the website, you got to upload some documents, and you got to do it. And the person was just like click through all these things, basically approving the stuff right there on the spot.
Well, I mean, this begs a million questions.
Indeed, it does.
First of all, are these people here in Pittsburgh?
I don't know for sure. All I know is that there are navigators here in Pittsburgh.
Why don't we know? Is that generally known that if somebody's having trouble, that they can just pick up and do what they would have done 10 years ago or 20 years ago and go?
Yes. Is
it generally known?
It's not generally known. No, not at all.
So why isn't the newspaper like putting this on the front, and why aren't there stations and just? They're
too busy for focusing on
how it isn't working.
Yeah, exactly. That there's the part that is working, which
does the media feel that in any way appearing to help it work is actually a political act and makes them, not the neutral observers that they are supposed to be? Is that possible?
Don't know.
Huh.
My own sense of it is that what was it? It was the story that was on my blog today that talks about. This is from Gene Lyons from the National Memo. And one of the things,
I love this quote. Can I read it?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, listen to this. This is from Daylee News Nuggets today. While much of their intended audience dozes, this is media in general. Yeah. While much of their intended audience dozes, headline-hungry, ratings-driven, click-soliciting news organizations act increasingly like a litter of kittens in a room full of balloons, excitedly chasing the next big political scandal or a glimpse of Miley Cyrus's nipple, whichever comes first. That's life at CLNN.
That's the Chicken Little News
Network, where the sky is always falling. Ain't that it?
Yeah, that's it.
And so it's boring to write about. And you can go here, and knowledgeable, young, savvy people will have you in and out in an hour, and you will have health insurance.
You'll be confident about what it is that you're getting. They'll answer all of your questions. And it's just, and here.
Well,
where you would start is going to healthcare.gov, and where it asks, for you a physical location. Okay, find local help. That's the click that you would go to on healthcare.gov. And it'll take you, they'll ask for your zip code, and they'll give you a long list. And in our area, it's
it's a long list.
Yeah. Squirrel Hill Health
Center. You can go right over here around the corner to Planned Parenthood.
Yep.
Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
Okay, you can go to the Squirrel Hill Health Center. You can go to primary. I mean, it's just a gazillion primary. Good heavens.
119. Yeah, there's
119 of them
in our region.
So if you know of somebody who's like despairing or thinks they can't do this,
or got frustrated with the website, it's just like
UPMC has a number of. There's a lot of people that are out there.
Yeah. So that was one story that had that experience, and it was really, and it's, the other sort of interesting dimension to it is how it was, at least in Connecticut, that this place was manned by people who I strongly suspect were because of Action for America veterans. But it worked out great for me and my niece, who was also signing up at the time.
Well, look, you can even, I'm looking, and this is from the healthcare.gov website. You've got something up here on our computer, and you enter a zip code. You enter your zip code, and then you ask them for what you want. Do you want an assistance to make an application? Are you a small business person? Do you want small business options? They've got, check that, and they'll tell you immediately where to go. Do you want Medicaid or CHIP?
Yeah. Do you speak English or not?
Yeah. But was this particular thing hard to get to on healthcare.gov?
No.
No.
No, if you go to the main site, it says find local help, and there's a link right there. And so, it's really quite, it's manageable. It's quite manageable. And here's the other piece to it that I find is like in the realm of politics. In terms of my experience that I've had in the last several days, one of the things I had happen to me last week is I had I have an old car that needed to get fixed, and I ended up spending like 3 days at my local greasy garage to get it fixed. I had my work there in the lounge area, and working for way too many hours than I care to think about, but. As I was there, I got to know the head of the garage and his wife, who were kind of there. Now, this guy, he owns and runs the garage, is as like Fox News, Tea Party kind of guy as you could possibly imagine. Okay. And, he's quoting to me Huckabee, and he's talking about how he doesn't believe in Obamacare, and, he philosophically opposes it, and he's heard so many stories about how it is that people see their rates double and triple and can't get on, and all this stuff. And, my brother had already signed on to gone through the program, and I just said, well, my brother was able to get on, and he, it's like, when he and his wife got through the process, it ended up costing them, for the two of them, for a silver plan, about $180 a week, $180 a month, $180 a month, and
his eyes.
Really, and. And as over the course of the several days that I was there, what I found out was he and his wife and their family, they don't have health insurance, and they have an autistic child, and and here he is in this, not necessarily a safe kind of job, working in a greasy garage. It's just like any kind of thing can happen, and after I was done, I spent my final day at the greasy garage.
Helping him get on?
Yeah, well, no, it was having just another conversation with him about it. And I said, well, yeah, I went in with my niece, and I was able to get a silver plan for myself and my niece for about $170 a month. And it's with, and I had the whole rundown of all the information about the deductibles and all this kind of stuff. And I could, the way those
the cognitive dissonance that was going on in their head.
That went away.
It did?
In a heartbeat. That went away. It was like the two of them looked at each other, and it was like, at the end of it, he says, I have got to check this out.
Look what look what Fox is doing to people.
Mm-hmm.
Look what all these...
Yeah. These governors, these Republican governors,
and the constant negative drumbeat from media in general.
Yeah,
they're scaring people from even looking, right? Yes,
and if you go to my website and you see the other headlines I have today, it's like in Connecticut and Kentucky, California, and the state.
Enrollment is surging.
Yep, enrollment
in
is
states that have these working websites.
Those states are on target to meet their enrollment goals, which I think the first benchmark is in March. For those people who are going in and actually finding out what there is to find out about it, and looking at it and kind of enrolling, it's like it's easy. Let me see what.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. But so anyway, that was well. My experience of the program, and I think that ultimately that experience of average people plus the word of mouth.
Word of mouth. You know what? I heard somebody say that's how it's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's sort of like, it's going to happen sort of organically. Just like I'm thinking of, it's sort of apples and oranges, but not quite. Sort of like the amazing turnaround in this country about gay rights. It's going to happen organically.
Yeah. Because you know somebody.
Family to family, friend to friend, sitting in an auto repair place, and striking up a conversation.
Yeah.
That is how it's going to happen. And it's been pointed out that there's no way this is going to get repealed.
Oh, no.
None. No way. So let's make it work.
That's it. And when you look, and there again, it's kind of like when I talked to this guy, when he first started into his conversation, this is the mechanic guy, it was like, well, there's all this talk about it being repealed. And the thing is, I mean, why do you think it has taken 3+ years for them to get to this point where they're actually registering people? Because they've had to rework the healthcare economy. They've had to rework the insurance economy. Federal and state programs have had to come into existence from nothing. And the idea that somehow, we're just going to pass a law and unmake this whole thing when you already have... they were looking at, I think it was in the Medicare, the new enrollments into Medicare, 400,000
Medicaid.
Excuse me,
yeah.
The Medicaid enroll people, it's like 400,000 people have already new enrolled into that.
Right. And one of the pieces, David Frum's piece in Daylee News Nuggets today points out, just try, let's say, go ahead, just try to repeal Obamacare or ACA in 2016 or 17 when a new president takes over or a new Congress. By that point, it would mean taking away health insurance from about 10 million Americans.
Yes.
I don't think that's going to fly.
No.
I don't think that's going to fly.
No.
Even now, if you would suggest to somebody, those people who are on Medicare, all of a sudden, a colonoscopy doesn't cost anything. It used to.
Yep.
All of a sudden, a mammogram doesn't cost anything. It used to.
Yes.
All kinds of the donut hole where you're paying unbelievable amounts of money for your drugs is closing and will close totally. Obamacare.
Yep.
The fact that your 20-something kid can still be insured on your Obamacare.
Yep.
The fact that that video that went viral of the little kid in San Francisco, the
Bat kid.
Bat kid, ladies and gentlemen. Without Obamacare up and running, would not be able to get his parents would not be able to get insurance because, man, he's got a real pre-existing condition. Mm-hmm. How is America going to go? How are Americans going back on that once they clear the din of misinformation and just sort of like panic Chicken Little
news network stuff,
crapola news network stuff that is polluting the air? So your suggestion to all of us is take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Relax.
Yeah.
This is going to happen. Not smoothly. There's going to be trip ups. There's going to be, but it's going to happen.
Correct. And I would say the other dimension to it is that the rollout and all of this, it's going to have a political cost, unfortunately, for Obama and the Democrats. And my suspicion is that the cost is going to come
in the House races
next year.
Yeah.
No, actually, the Senate races.
Oh,
I mean, it's unlike.
You don't think the Republicans are going to take the Senate?
Well, I think that is. I don't think so. But if you'd asked me a month ago, I was certain that it wasn't going to be the case, and now I'm not so certain. And when you look at John Tester in Montana and Landrieu in Louisiana, their numbers have gone down substantially just in this since the Obamacare rollout. And there's other. Senators who they went from being.
But that's a year away. Are you sure that there's not recovery time?
Oh, sure, there is. Yeah. But it's like we went from. You remember the shutdown Remember how long ago that was? Yeah, we had the shutdown.
I barely remember it.
Yeah, there was this shutdown thing, and the generic Democrat on the kind of a generic ballot was doing very well against a generic Republican.
That's not the case.
And now they're like either tied or just a little bit the Republican ahead by a point or two. And so, they've kind of and you've heard, I'm sure, about how the lawmakers, Democratic lawmakers, are really upset about how this has gone because it has made their work so much harder for next year.
Yeah. But like the vote that was in the House, where 29 Democrats vote. I forget even what the vote exactly was on.
Sure. It was on this act. What was the name of the? I can't remember the name of it now. But it basically reinstitutes the insurance company's capability.
Oh, that's right.
To hang on to these lousy.
To these lousy plans that don't make. Okay, so. The fact is people are pointing. There's 29 right there that are all ready to bolt. No. That's called. I think in one of your pieces today, or maybe I read it somewhere else. That's a free vote.
Yes.
That's that bill was going nowhere.
Exactly.
And so you could, if you were a Democrat in a scary re-election, you could point to this vote and say, I voted again. I'm not somebody who's enabling, President Obama every inch of the way. So that was a vote. I mean, there might have been a few that would have voted for it otherwise, but probably not. The Democrats are they're unhappy, but they're holding firm.
Yes. And it's the kind of thing that Obama benefits from, the fact that the healthcare.gov site seems to be getting substantially better.
Well, the news today,
yes.
The news today from various sources, mostly I think New York Times and Wall Street Journal today, say that, first of all, this end of November deadline is not really going to be met. It's not going to be 100% operative. They say it's about 60% to 70% operative, but there are still this, a third of it is still screwed up, and they're working, and obviously they're going to get it fixed.
Yeah,
they're going to get it fixed, and more people are signing on, but to overcome the incredible damage done by this, don't you think heads should roll about that?
Some heads have already rolled. The head of it's the head of, I can't remember now if it's Medicare or Medicaid. I remember her name.
She stepped down.
She
stepped down?
Yes, she did. Now we're not talking about the head of HHS.
No, Sebelius, but
no, right? No,
she should go too. But who was pointing out the other day to me? You can't get rid of these people because you can't replace them.
That's it.
Because the Republicans will not allow anybody to
fill their spot.
Absolutely not. And in fact, they just the other day nixed another judicial appointment, 3 in a row, bang, 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 by the president. You can't govern.
No, that's part of the deal. I think that the Republicans are trying to.
They're saboteurs, and that's all they are. They are saboteurs, and all too often they have a willing aider and abettor in even mainstream media. We have to take a break. Yeah. Jared Day is with me, and he's got a lot of information in his head. That's because he not only reads Daylee News Nuggets, he compiles them. Yep. Get on board. Seriously. Okay? Be back in a sec.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Go to the all-new BergBargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. Log on now for great deals from Ibiza, Atria's Verde, the Improv Comedy Club and City Theater. The all-new BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains, BergBargains.com.
Packers.
Vikings.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we make a real difference in the building blocks of life. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly so do our communities. Real change won't happen without you.
Live united.
So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, we are back with Dr. Jared Day. Mm-hmm. Do you ever call yourself doctor?
Rarely.
What do you think of PhDs who
Well, if
always parading around as doctor this and that?
If it depends on what setting you're in. If you're in an academic setting, like I'm when I'm teaching at Carnegie Mellon, it's fine if people call me Professor Day. That's fine. But if I'm not in that kind of a setting,
it's misleading.
I'm not sure about that. I think it is.
I hear MD when I hear doctor.
Right, but it's the kind of thing that if you're out in the non-academic world, it makes a difference having that kind of a title. And as long as it's
you have credibility,
subject appropriate, it always annoyed the hell out of me. Was it Dr. Laura Schlesinger?
Yeah.
It's like Dr. Laura.
She had a doctorate in physiology.
That's it. And it was.
You would have thought she was a psychiatrist.
Exactly.
Right.
And she let that sort of float out there.
Right. But a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I know it's hard work to get a PhD, and that afterwards, you figure, hey, I worked this hard. I should at least be able to get the status that comes with it.
I think it's more in terms of who you're interacting with, that they can relate to you as that, rather than just somebody who.
But see, you're talking like a rational person as opposed to somebody whose ego needs a boost.
It has often struck me that who flies without her PhD is Rachel Maddow.
She's got a PhD?
I'm pretty sure she does.
She probably could have 20 of them. She's so dang smart.
Yes. And there it's like she doesn't call herself Dr. Rachel.
No, she doesn't.
No.
And she treats people a little nicer too.
Yes.
Hey, I've got something here for you. This I saw, I guess, last night. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid on Tuesday threatened to, quote, go nuclear on filibuster reform. One day after Republicans completed a triple filibuster of President Obama's most high-profile judicial nominees. He says, and there's a quote from him, I'm at the point where we need to do something to allow government to function. The obstruction we've seen in the last 5 years is nothing like anything we've ever seen before. This is not how democracy is supposed to work or function, and the American people are sick of this. Okay, I agree. What's so funny is that how many this headline could have come off of a yellowing, crumbled old newspaper that I found at the bottom of a 2-year-old bird cage.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what was funny, and I just happened to check, is right under the story, there were comments from...
Sure. Yes. Who knows who?
Oh, the comments, though. Bubba in Wisconsin.
Okay. What does he say?
Reid's threat is no more threatening than a fart in the wind.
Yeah.
There. I thought Bubba sort of summed it up, don't you?
Yes. Well.
And then somebody just posts on it, considering Looking at the rules, yeah, that'll teach them, Harry. It's Groundhog Day again, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You know, but this, I mean, they're responding because you can't. I mean, anyone knows it's the height of bad parenting, for instance, to threaten and not, come through.
Yeah.
Paper tiger. Absolutely, it doesn't mean a damn thing.
Yeah.
Well, what is going on? Why don't they do it? Would you think they should?
I think they're going to be left with no choice in the matter soon enough. Simply, and this is one of these things where people don't appreciate that each house of Congress, they set their own rules, and then they vote on those rules at the beginning of every Congress that is sworn in. They vote on the rules, and usually they're kind of a rubber stamp kind of thing. But the thing to keep in mind is that occasionally those rules get majorly shaken up. And
they do? I can't even remember the last.
Well, one of the most notable was actually from around, I think it is like the late 1890s.
Ha! See, that's why I can't remember.
Because there used to be a similar kind of device in the House that made it so that the minority could stop whatever was going through, and that even members of the majority, if they were a minority within the majority, that they could stop it. And that's one of the reasons after the Civil War, from the Civil War to about 1898, almost nothing of substance happens in legislatively or on the domestic policy agenda. It's almost nothing happens is because the House was one of those places where laws went to die. And then the Speaker of the House, and somehow I think it might have been Reid Andrews, and I'm not sure if that was who it was, but that he is one of the most historic speakers of the House because he just, in the span of 24 hours,
got rid of that rule.
Got rid of the major roadblock in the way of that kind of legislation, and it caused this huge uproar. But of course, one of the things that we've had since is that now in the House is what you have is majority always carries the day in the House. It is very hard for the minority in the House to stop
anything.
The majority. It's like they have almost no power at all.
And you don't think that's good either?
Well, it is.
At least it's more democratic.
That's exactly right. But it's the Senate is a place where they still have these kinds of things in place, and it is okay. It's like if we do this, it's like when we're the minority in the future,
right?
We're gonna wish we had.
Wish we hadn't, and that is what. That's
right. What's happening, and you have enough senior senators. There's never a lack of senior senators, but
sure.
In both sides, it's like if they do that, then really it is going to alter fundamentally the way the Senate works. And from my sense, that it may have to go that way.
But all it would do is put it back to what the founding fathers thought would be right. I mean, it just puts it back to.
No.
They didn't have the founding fathers didn't have this idea that.
Well, the filibuster has been there since before the Civil War.
I know the filibuster has, but the filibuster's not really. These aren't filibusters.
This is true. That's why I think it's ultimately going to happen. Is that they're going to repeal it or actually get rid of that rule,
or redefine it so that it.
Yep, something along those lines. It's just. Like with the speaker from the late 1890s, it's like, you can, it's like it takes something to be somebody who's going to say, from this point forward, the House or the Senate is going to operate fundamentally differently.
Unbelievable.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, and for me, I don't post a lot on the nuclear option story simply because I'll believe it when I see it.
Because you've heard the threat.
And it goes back to the times when the Republicans that they were in the same conversation when they were the majority in the Senate, and it's just like, yep, you're gonna talk, and it's like nothing happens, so it's. There's certain stories. It's sort of like the domestic policy version of peace talks resume in the Middle East.
Right, exactly. It is.
It's like,
it is. You don't even bother looking. You think, all right, fine. Wake me up when it's if something happens. Let me know.
Yeah, it's just cut and paste from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Cut and paste in, and there you got your story. So it's like.
Now, you often, I get the impression from being a regular reader of your blog that you think Americans and the media in general do not pay enough attention to what's going on outside the country.
Well, outside and given the recession and the political contests that the partisanship in this country, there's a level at which I can understand how you'd be absorbed with those things, because the recession's real and it impacts a lot of people. But in terms of looking at the foreign policy, there's just so much else going on in the world. I mean, one of the stories that I've been tracking quite regularly is with Europe. What's been happening with the Great Recession in Europe, and it's
scary.
It is.
It's scary.
Scary.
If you can just focus on one country and get scared, but then when you start realizing how many nations are really in, what we know, let's start naming names. I mean, Greece has already gone down.
Sure.
Italy, Spain, France is
in
looking,
trouble.
Yeah.
Hungary, and of course Ireland and Iceland have already been through the mill.
Do you
really
think Germany is most responsible for? Germany is. It's so funny.
I know Paul Krugman
thinks so.
Picks on the Germans a lot. But no, it's basically.
Well, they're austerity, man. They still buy into like a Republican view of how you recover from this kind of thing.
Sure, and
starve the beast.
There's that, and they don't appreciate the political costs. That's kind of like they're sacrificing their own political stability for the sake of economic growth.
Is it because do you think the German psyche is still? I mean, well, who knows about the German psyche? But they're so fearful of
hyperinflation,
of inflation because of those? You've seen pictures in your history books,
yes,
of Germans, with wheelbarrows full of
Deutschmarks,
Deutschmarks going to buy a loaf of bread.
Yes. And the thing about it, there were actually 2 episodes of that. There was right after World War I, from 1921-22. They had hyperinflation then, and that's where a lot of the pictures that you see really come from. But then there's the earliest years of the Great Depression, 29, 30, 31. Before in that,
all this stuff gave rise to
fascism.
To fascism and Adolf Hitler.
And so, like, for me, the story that is largely being missed now is a re-emergent neo-fascism.
I mean, the right wing in Europe is, first of all, anti-Semitism's on the rise big time in countries where we've never seen it before, in Nordic countries.
Yes.
In places that have always... And, if you read the Jewish media, which does focus on this stuff, it's, you got to be kidding me. Can Europe be doing this again?
And then you throw in the anti-immigrant sentiment and the anti-Muslim sentiment, then you've got a very dangerous mix. And the signs, in my reading of the news anyway, are quite disturbing.
I agree. And Americans are just blah, 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 blah. Absolutely.
Which is...
why, though? Nobody's told them.
Well, there's that.
Right? But why?
But it's also, you saw the same thing in the 1930s in the United States.
La-di-da-di-da-di-da.
Well, it was more.
What?
It's just like you're so caught up
in your own
in domestic policy
in your own
issues. The Great Recession. What's happening here.
Yeah, but look at how what was happening there sort of.
Yeah, it comes around to bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
And so, like right now, I mean, when you look at Spain, the New York Times had this wonderful. I don't know about wonderful. It was a really good article
on the kids there,
on employment. Yeah, what is it? Spain, they have 50% unemployment for young people.
And we're talking people in their 20s, people who have graduated from colleges, they're educated, and they've got nothing. And they're leaving Spain. They're going to, I remember they focused on some young woman who'd gone to Amsterdam or something. But these are like, they're refugees of a sort.
Basically, yes.
Economic refugees of a whole young generation. What does that do to stability of these countries? One of
the things that I have written on my blog is that a political system that can't deal with 50% unemployment amongst a demographic like that is a political system that's going to be in trouble. And that's what you see happening in Greece and in Hungary, where you see resurgent fascist movements that are just nakedly fascist.
Nakedly.
Yep.
I mean, they make no bones about it.
There's nothing subtle or hidden about it.
This in a Europe that just, 70 years ago was bloodied beyond comprehension by this same kind of reaction. It's amazing. Daunting.
Yes.
Those who do not know history. And our media.
Yes.
So if it comes home and bites us, Jared and I told you. I mean, about it.
Yes.
Yeah, a year or so before the fact. It's scary if you look over there. We got to get a break in here.
Yep.
So we shall. Quickie, too. We'll be right back.
Comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Just in time for the holidays, Little's Shoes is your UGG headquarters. Little's has the largest selection of UGGs for men, women, and children to stay warm with shearling-lined boots, shoes, and slippers. Don't forget to get your hats, gloves, scarves, and more. Bring the entire family to view one of the largest in-store UGG shops in the U.S. All available at Little's Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store. Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill or littleshoes.com. Download the CP Haps app to find out what's happening in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text EVENTS to 77948 to download now. Available on the App Store and Google Play. Brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay, here I am, and here's Jared Day as well. Dr. Day. To you.
Yes.
And moi. Where'd you get your PhD from?
Carnegie Mellon, actually.
Oh, well.
Yep.
That ain't easy. That's particularly a hard one to get. God.
Yes.
So, you were just telling me that you use the word bifurcate.
Yes.
PhDs do that kind of thing. Okay, so what you're saying, you look at when I'm
deciding on what stories to post each day.
Yeah.
I'll easily glance at say 40 or 50 headlines with bylines and all that in the course of a day. And what is it that sort of has me choose some things
and
or
not
some
others, right?
that comes up? And one of the things that I distinguished several years ago is the extent to which you have certain reporters and pundits who are like so much on their game as somebody in the media yourself, I'm sure you can appreciate this. Yeah, that you know that there are certain people,
go-to people.
Yeah, people who now the two people that I often view in this in the gold category is people like Ezra Klein and Greg Sargent at the Washington Post.
Okay,
that these are people. They're not just opinionating, that they're actually doing original reporting and analyzing it and maybe giving an opinion. So it's like you get all three of those things together: original reporting, analysis, and opinion.
Ezra Klein is with
Bloomberg also.
Okay.
He's a blogger at the Post and a columnist at Bloomberg.
Right.
And Greg Sargent is a blogger at Washington Post. And these are people that you can tell that certainly those two, they have excellent sources in the executive branch. And the thing that's so interesting about that is that we actually have an administration now where very few reporters actually have good sources in the executive branch.
Right. This is a very tight White House.
Very tight, and so
yeah,
and the further I would say ideologically, the further away you get from, say, the Democrats or Obama, like on the far right, it's like people on that end of the spectrum. I have yet to see one that has good sources in the White House. And this has an interesting, it sort of reinforces the partisanship that you see in the media generally, is the fact that you have reporters and columnists and pundits on the right who
really have no access to information. So what? They're making it up?
Well, they have their people that their columnists and such that they read, and that then they will sort of churn it through their own filter. But you also see a somewhat different version of that on the left, and I would say even more generally, where you have pundits. I hate to say it, these tend to be older people, people like Clarence Page, people like Mark Shields.
They're old.
People who I would swear they stopped reporting decades, maybe
they're
even
old. They can't
25.
get out of their chairs.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Somebody who I thought was awesome, and I was very sad when he actually passed away, was Robert Novak.
Wow.
That was somebody, up until the last months of his life, he was doing original reporting. He had great sources.
He always struck me as mean.
Oh man, well that was he did.
Mean.
And he made no secret about his own ideological bias.
Oh.
But he did the work. And
there's ones that just phone it in, and you're suggesting that
yes.
Clarence Page, Mark Shields, anybody else you want to throw into that category?
Well, you'll be surprised perhaps. Cokie Roberts.
Oh no, I'm not surprised at all. I stopped listening to Cokie.
Yes.
Maybe 10 years ago. She's a
Mara Liasson.
Okay.
Yeah, as people who, I get that, that there are people who think they're wonderful.
They're phoning it in.
That these are people who, if you want the inside scoop as to what the Beltway media is thinking about something, they're great for that.
Because they just talk to each other.
That's all they do. At least that's based on...
But I think a lot of them, that's all they do.
But that's the difference.
Okay.
In terms of when I...
Well, can't you add a few more to Greg Sargent and Ezra Klein?
Sure. Let's see. The Atlantic has a number of people. Oh, yes.
I absolutely agree.
Peter Beinart, Connor Friedersdorf, James Fallows.
Yes.
These are people who I almost think it's a requirement at the Atlantic that you can't phone it in.
No.
I mean, there's... so there's... we talked about the bifurcation of it. I also sort of hold out those people who maybe don't do a lot of original reporting, but who have extraordinary analysis. And they're like Andrew Sullivan.
Yes.
David Frum.
Yes.
Sometimes Paul Krugman, not always. People who, that they have a way with thinking big picture. Sometimes Thomas Friedman.
Well, it's so funny because you said big picture, and I was going to say, and Thomas Friedman,
yes.
because he's sort of notorious.
He's notoriously big picture.
And there's something, I used to think of him as such a wonderful reporter, and now to me he's a cartoon, and I don't know why. What is it with him?
I think that a couple of things about Thomas Friedman. One is that I appreciated his book Lexus and the Olive Tree when it came out.
Yeah.
A lot of people on the left hated that book, where it talked about the impact of globalization and America's leadership in globalization.
Was that before or after the Earth is flat, the world is flat?
It was before that. The Earth is Flat was his sequel to that.
Okay.
But I think that one of the things that kind of happened is that he got hired by the Times to be their globalization columnist.
So he keeps writing the same column over and over and over again.
Well, he keeps tracking the same phenomenon in different settings.
Okay.
And
it's boring.
When he gets on those jags, it isn't very interesting anymore. The other thing I would say about Thomas Friedman was that I don't think I feel it's obvious that he didn't appreciate the environmental impacts and the labor impacts. And he's been in many ways globalization,
yeah.
And he's been trying to kind of take back elements of his original arguments, and it's almost like they're irreconcilable. You can't reconcile the fairly positive picture he presented in the late 1990s
right.
with
right.
and sort of neatly just tack on labor and environment.
Yeah.
No, you really can't.
So there's been a lot of talk lately about the contrast between Bill Clinton and Barack Obama.
Yes.
What do you make of all of that? Because they really are like polar opposites in terms of personality and even presidencies.
Yes.
So how do you reconcile those two characters a little bit?
Well, I think it's not much of a secret that between those two, there's not a lot of love lost.
Well, in this new book that came out, I forget the new book by I'm blanking out about the last election.
Halpern
and in the book it says that Obama said about Clinton, God, he said, something about I can only take him in
small doses.
Yeah,
small doses.
And so somebody was opining that, of course, Clinton now has read that, knows that.
Sure. But now, I would actually say that one of the good things about Bill Clinton, I'm actually, as you probably know, a pretty tough critic of Bill Clinton. And
I adore the rogue.
From my point of view is that I find it interesting. Among Democrats, and especially very partisan Democrats, the Clintons live as kind of almost as sort of liberal lions of the current.
Well, they weren't liberal.
No, they weren't
at all.
And so it's kind of like I find it interesting how it is the Clintons have kind of emerged as all things to all people on the left. It's like if you're moderate, there's all kinds of moderateness to the Clinton record, both as Hillary and. But if you're kind of like somebody who pines for a Ted Kennedy or a real, for some reason the Clintons live
They're
as
not liberal.
No.
They're not liberal.
No.
Quite
and
not.
Moreover, and this is actually one of the concerns I very much have about Hillary Clinton running in 2016, is that throughout their public lives, and especially in the 1990s when they were running for office and in the White House, there was so much, they squandered so much of their political capital on stuff, on just terrible judgment and starting with, I once posted.
But maybe they learned.
Well, now the fact that Hillary ran in 2000 and got her New York Senate seat, and then got reelected, and did that fairly cleanly, that bodes well.
Yeah, I think maybe she learned something.
Well, that's what I'd like to think. But then she ran for president in 2008, and you looked at the campaign people around her.
And it was those old, awful people.
Mark Penn, people, Terry McAuliffe and Harold Ickes, and it's, these people so misread the moment. And I just hope that those people or people like them are not what surrounds her in 2016.
Don't you think she's an inevitability? I mean, in terms of running.
I would say it's 90%. And here again, don't underestimate the Clintons' capacity to find a banana peel somewhere. They...
Well, they certainly aren't boring.
I don't know. Yeah, they are. I think she's going to run, but she will win as long as she can and Bill can run a tight ship.
Yeah.
If they can't, they won't.
But who would beat them?
Well, if the Republicans are,
who do you think they're going? What?
To me, it's between Jeb Bush and Chris Christie.
But how does a Republican convention nominate Chris Christie?
They're not going to. There's all kind of. But to me, those are the only two people.
But you see, Jeb Bush could get nominated.
He has been so disciplined. I have been very, and I as a committed Democrat, it's somebody that I fear him the most.
Well, the thing that's most detrimental to him, it would seem, is his last name.
And there's that, and that's what is his position going to be on the Bush record? It's like is he going to defend Iraq and Afghanistan and the economy under W?
Is he going to have to?
I think he will have to say something. And that what he says, and then of course there's all the lunatic litmus tests that he will have to weigh in on. Is Obama a citizen? Yeah.
What does it say about a country if that's who's running for president in this nation in 2016? Clinton, Bush.
Well,
what does that say?
Ask me when it happens.
All right. Well, it's outrageous. And
yes.
We're out of time. It's an outrage.
Uh-huh.
Is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
A true pleasure, Jared. I always feel smarter after I talk to you.
Oh, good.
Maybe not smarter, but more knowledgeable.
Okay.
Okay. Tomorrow, Tom Sokolowski joins us. You have a wonderful day, and thank you again. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.